This is actually really a good example of a visitor center helping me out, because if it wasn't for Richard, I would never have known about Joanna and the Aiming Trust.
She's the artist?
Yes, and they're the ones that are doing the sculpture to commemorate the Battle of Bladensburg. So I had this episode re-edited to really focus on that instead of just on Joshua Barney. Here, take a look.
I've been sculpting for about 10 years, and this is the most recent project.
Which is quite impressive.
Thank you.
The Aiming Trust is a historic preservation organization. That's what we were founded to do. We sort of came up with the idea.
The Battle of Bladensburg is a huge event in American history, and there's really nothing in this area that commemorates that acknowledges that something important happened. The challenge was, for me as an artist, is how do you commemorate a defeat? And originally the memorial was called Undaunted in Defeat. Nobody liked that. So now it's called Undaunted in Battle. Originally it started off with drawings. This is one of the original watercolor sketches.
Where did you go from there?
Okay, so from that drawing I presented it to the Trust, and then I also had a couple of historians look at it who told me right away, well, they would have all been wearing hats. Barney, it doesn't matter that it was August 24th and hot as hell, like he would have, he would not have unbuttoned his coat. So that everybody, they needed to be, dressed in their uniforms in a very specific way. I actually found out that there were 1812 reenactors, and so I was able to meet some of them at Fort McHenry, the living history guys, and asked them if they would be willing to model for me, which they did. Rather than showing militiamen in retreat, I thought that Joshua Barney, the hero of the battle, should be the main figure of it.
It's kind of almost humbling to think of commemorating a defeat. I had heard about the battle and about how it had led to the eventual victory at Baltimore because of the failings.
Right.
You could almost say because of the failings of this battle, it led to the victory at Baltimore. And it's humbling and to remember something like this and how even in defeat we could rise up.
Yeah, 1812 was really the second battle for American independence, and so I think the importance of it is lost on a lot of people. So there's the quarter scale model, and then once that was approved, I had it taken to the foundry, and it was scanned and digitally enlarged in foam. Just the figures. Yeah, so it's actually fairly light. There's maybe 200 pounds of clay on there, and that's it.
This is foam, and then clay is on top of the foam.
Yeah, the foam is a type of armature underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an amazing technology.
It's an interesting time for all that. Now, what's the journey from here of this statue?
Well, soon they're going to come in, the foundry is going to come and pick the piece up. Actually use this chain hoist and there's a break in the railing to turn it sideways and take it over the railing, and they're going to back a truck down the alley and load it up, and it will go to the foundry and it'll be cast in bronze.
Okay, and then do you know about how long that's going to take?
And that process takes about 4 to 6 months.
Okay, so and once this leaves, is that it for you? Is there more you're doing on this?
Well, I will sort of shepherd it through the process at the foundry. They'll make a rubber mold on it, and then they'll pour waxes into it, and I'll need to inspect the wax to make sure that all of the details are there and that everything came out correctly. And then they'll make ceramic shells on that, and then once they pour the bronze, there'll be a metal inspection to do, and it's cast in pieces, so it will be reassembled and the joints will be welded, and then they'll chase the welds so that you can't see them, sandblast it, and then put a patina on it, and there'll be a patina inspection. Bronze is like 95% copper,
Right.
and so when it's left out in the elements, it gets that kind of old penny look to it, which they can accelerate with chemicals.
Okay.
So we want it to look like it's always been there.
All around us, there are monuments, whether it's a statue of Lincoln in D.C. or a statue of Mothman in Point Pleasant, Virginia. They're all around us, and they're so commonplace we tend to drive by them, walk by them without giving them a second thought. But there's one thing this episode taught me, is that not only do they commemorate history, but they're a piece of history themselves. There's a story behind these statues. So think about that the next time you're walking by one.
This is quite a bit different for a different reason. I mean, it's shorter and it just seems like the extraneous material is left out. So you've kind of condensed it and made the message come across more. All right, so now is when we have our discussion.
Yes. When you told me about this assignment, you were really having me go out and kind of show what I can do.
Yeah, and it was a public service thing. It was a good thing.
But it really captured my attention. And I don't think we should stop here. I don't think it should stop in Fells Point.
Why would we do this? Are you okay?
Yes. It's just that in going back and looking at this footage and talking with these people, I saw how interesting history can be. That it's really our identity. Everybody's identity. I mean, the privy diggers, digging in your backyard. They were doing an archaeological dig in your backyard. It wasn't some tomb in Egypt. It was your backyard pertaining to the history of the house you live in. You're not unique. You're not the only person who has a privy in their backyard. You're not the only person whose house has a history. But people don't think of their surroundings as historical, because when they think of history, they think of a classroom. They think of a textbook or a dusty museum. But if there's one thing I learned from doing these is that history is not boring. That there are aspects of history that you don't even think of as history. Like ghost tours, it's all around us. And I really want people to know that. They should know that their culture is not boring and that their history is not boring. And if people find the passion like I did, I think that could completely change the way we look at our history, at our culture, at our identity. And I think that that's a good thing. It can be good for neighborhoods, it can be good for towns, cities, it could be good for the whole country. I just think we need to bring it to people.
Frank, if you really feel this strongly, you can do a couple more of them.
Thank you, but I think I need an intern.
What?
Yeah, I hired an intern.